A young girl, Iwanaga Kotoko, sits at a park, and at a designated time, she stands up, wears her hat, and takes her walking stick, then walks to meet a boy, Kuro. When she greets him, he asks her who she is because he doesn't know her. In response, she wonders why he doesn't recognize someone who has saved him before. He tries to remember which situation she has saved him, and she reminds him that 2 years ago, he was at a hospital, and as he was about to enter, some kids came out, and he almost fell. Before he reaches the ground, she runs to him and uses her hand to hold him and stop him from falling. He recovers himself and appreciates her for saving him. She tells him it's no problem, but she wants something in return, which is for him not to forget her. He feels what she wants is far-fetched. She hasn't done so much for him to expect him to remember her every day, so he doesn't understand why she wants that. But since that is her condition, he feels it's actually enough, and he could have died if he had fallen, so he accepts it. As he leaves, Iwanaga feels he is too unfazed. Even in the face of danger, he stands there watching. She feels he is like a goat. Goats can survive in every situation they find themselves in. They can live on the grassland and even on the mainland, and there are even some types of goats that have 2 horns. She feels he is special, so she wonders if she has fallen in love with him at first sight. He apologizes to her for forgetting her and says she wasn't wearing a hat the first day they encountered each other. She wonders if he only recognizes ladies by their hats, and he remembers that his ex-girlfriend, Saki, didn't allow him to look at girls' faces because it made her uncomfortable. She sits with him and asks him how his relationship with Saki ended. He asks her how she knows, and she narrates that on that day, she met him at the hospital. Saki comes to meet him there. She finds out Iwanaga has saved him from falling, and she bows Kuro's head and thanks Iwanaga. Iwanaga wonders if she is his sister, so when she meets the nurses, she asks them who Kuro is, and they inform her that Kuro is a law student at Homai University, and he is dating Saki, who is a year older than him. They tell her that Kuro and Saki have been dating since high school, and their relationship is serious. Iwanaga feels so disappointed she keeps asking for updates about the relationship even until she hears that they have introduced each other and they will soon get married. One day when she gets to the hospital, she finds Kuro alone, and she asks the nurses, who also realize that it has been a while since they have seen Kuro with Saki, and that the couple might have broken up. Iwanaga tells Kuro that she has been in love with him for a while and wants to have a relationship with him, but he refuses. She wonders how his last relationship ended, so he narrates that he went on a trip with Saki, and they encountered a kappa, and the kappa ran from him. Following that incident, Saki broke up and left for another city. He attempts to leave her, but she claims she knows it wasn't the kappa that ran off. He tells her he isn't obliged to tell a stranger his relationship issue, so she informs him she knows much about kappa, ghosts, and monsters, and she was kidnapped about 5 years ago, and the creatures ask her to be their goddess of wisdom. He refuses to believe her, so she asks him to read the news about a girl that was missing for 2 weeks and was found with 1 eye and 1 leg. She leaves and takes the bus, where she talks to a yakai about how terrifying Kuro is and about a monster in the library. The following day, Kuro goes to read about her in the library. She waits for him outside, and as they talk, a creature comes to tell her the barrier in the library have broken, and monsters are trooping in. She asks Kuro to join her in the fight against the monster, but Kuro refuses. He claims he now believes she is really their goddess, but it's not his business. She begs him and tells him she may die there, so he follows her. As the monster attacks, he runs away with her. When she goes to attack the monster and falls, he carries her and drags her closer. He allows the monster to bite off his hand, and to her shock, the hand grows back, and the monster gets poisoned. She wonders who he really is, and he asks her if she didn't hear about a person who ate monsters as a kid. He informs her his body is poison to the monsters. Iwanaga goes to the hospital, and she coincidentally meets Kuro, who is also there to visit his sick auntie. He wonders if she is stalking him or sending her yakai to find him, but she tells him that she also has an appointment for her eye and leg at the hospital. Immediately the yakai on her body see him, and he slips away. She walks out with Kuro and asks him if he is feeling good. She wants to know if his hand is better and if he hasn't gotten any injury from the last encounter. He wonders if she is concerned about him, and he shows her his hand. He tells her that ever since he had eaten the body of a mermaid when he was 11, he had the ability to heal himself and regenerate. She recalls that eating a mermaid's body can also make a person young, so she wonders why he doesn't look like an 11-year-old. And he tells her it is because the second monster he ate worked in suppressing some of the privileges he could have gotten from eating the mermaid. When she asks what the monster is, he refuses to tell her. He wants to go for his visit, but she tells him she wants to visit the mountain that evening and that he should follow her. She says she needs to see the great giant serpent of the mountain who has sent a messenger to her, but he asks her if she has any supernatural power to fight. He claims that except for being their goddess, she has no extra power, and she could die if she encounters a violent monster. She begs him to follow her, but he refuses because he has pork miso soup to eat that evening. She goes there alone, but angrily she meets the serpent, who welcomes her and asks her to sit. The serpent wonders if he has disturbed her, but she tells him she is angry with her boyfriend. Before coming there, she had gone to find Kojiro at home, but he only gave her a cardigan and sprayed her with bug repellent so she could continue her journey. But he refuses to follow her and even holds one of her yakai. Little does she know that he is actually there. The serpent tells her his concerns. He says humans no longer worship him, and he doesn't care about that. But a few weeks ago, a young girl dragged a corpse to his river and threw the corpse there, so he wants to know why she did that. She remembers the murder incident that happened that day. A young man, Yashihara Hiru, who is 35 years old, was found dead with no means of identification. The police find him and immediately find the suspect, Tanio Ai, a 30-year-old woman. She had killed him and dumped him there. She confessed to the crime, and Iwanaga told the serpent. The serpent believed she couldn't have thrown the man there with the intention that he shouldn't be found. He claims the lady said she hoped the man would be found. Iwanaga goes back on the issue. It started about 5 years ago, and Ai was dating a man, Machiai, who worked at the same office as Yashihara. One day, they found Machiai dead with a coworker in what was concluded as a double suicide. They found out Machiai, who worked as an accountant in the company, had embezzled some money and convinced his girlfriend to die with him. Angry about that, Ai returned to her hometown, which is that village. On the said day, Yashihara visited, and he confessed that he was the one who embezzled the money and killed Machiai. According to Ai, she killed him in anger and threw him into the swamp because she had heard there was a man-eating monster there, and she hoped the serpent would eat him. The serpent isn't convinced, so Iwanaga paints another scenario where Yashihara might have called Machiai's brother alone, and it was Machiai's brother who killed him, and Ai had to conceal the crime. She claims if that was the case, then there are 3 reasons she had dumped him in the swamp. The first is so she can allow Machiai's brother to escape, and 2 so she can clean up before he is found, and the third is to sacrifice to the serpent so he can release Rain to clean the evidence. Indeed, Rain fell the following day. The snake is still unconvincing because he heard Ai say she wishes the man was found. The yakai with Kojiro betrayed him and comes to join Iwanaga, so she found out he was there. She realizes that there is no rational way that she could have explained everything to the serpent, so she tries to find an easy way for her to get away from that situation. She tells the serpent that she doesn't think he had misheard, but she thinks Ai has something else in the river that she wishes to be found, which isn't Yashihara's body. She paints a scenario whereby Ai has left something in the river before. When another situation arose for the river to be searched, she felt she could use the opportunity to find what she had left there before. She thinks that there was something Ai threw away when she came back to her family home because of how hurt she was. And when she realizes her boyfriend isn't at fault, she brings Yashihara's corpse there so that the police can find what she has thrown when they search. The serpent wonders why Ai had gone that far in bringing the corpse when she can just throw the murder weapon into the swamp and let the officers find the weapon. She narrates to him that to get the officers in action, Ai had to put the body. She assumes that Ai probably found out she was pregnant after she relocated, and she lost the child to a miscarriage and threw away the corpse. So when she found out her boyfriend was innocent, she felt bad and decided to find the child so she could bury it properly, which was why she said she hoped they find him. However, the serpent admits that he cleans the water regularly, so there is no way it can be found. The serpent believes her, and she leaves with Kojiro. On their way, Kojiro asks her if she believed what she had told the serpent. She claims that Ai wanted the serpent to eat Yashihara because she sent a ghost to Ai in prison. The ghost overheard the same statement, so she only joined all the pieces and said a story that was relatable because there was no way the serpent would admit he heard wrongly. He warns her to stop doing those risky things, but she claims if he worries about her, then he should do them with her. In another part of the city, a schoolboy sees a faceless ghost, and he drives under the bridge and falls into the water. At the police station, Kuro's former girlfriend, Saki, eats meat. Her colleague, Terada, comes to meet her, and after a personal conversation, he asks her why she had changed the student's statement from seeing a beautiful ghost to seeing a dog. Saki says it's because whether the boy has seen a ghost or a dog, he has seen what shouldn't be there, and it was more relatable to be a dog. She asks Terada if he is looking for the Steel Lady Nanes. Some time ago, an idol named Nanes Karin had an issue, and she came to that city and locked herself in a hotel. Unfortunately, there was a steel accident, and she died. Since then, they had been rumors that her ghost was around holding steel. Terada claims it's just unrelatable rumors, and he doesn't think it is real. He feels that there is a team who are using Nanes as a cover-up for crimes, and the police have to be on alert. Saki, on the other hand, tries to convince Terada that yokai and monsters exist. She has seen Kuro heal himself, which is why she left the relationship. She goes to throw up because she hates meat, and she tells Terada that he should be careful because they actually exist. She thinks about Kuro on her way home, and suddenly Iwanaga falls off around the mountain, and she holds her. Iwanaga appreciates her but asks her to leave because a ghost is coming. Nanes comes out from the hill, and Saki gets angry. She has lost her relationship after she saw the monster in the river called Kuro a monster, and she can't keep living miserably for those creatures. She goes to hit Nanes, but she can't. Iwanaga goes to fight too, and in the process, her leg removes. Nanes flees from the fight, and Saki confronts Iwanaga to know if she is also a yokai. She claims she is just in the middle, and Saki should behave as if she didn't see what happened that day. Saki refuses. She brings out her card and shows Iwanaga she is an officer. When Iwanaga sees her name, she screams. She introduces herself as Kuro's new girlfriend, and Saki angrily hits her. Saki eventually takes her home. She helps her treat her wounded body, and she asks her if she is really sure that she is in a relationship with Kuro. Iwanaga tells her that she is 19 years old and she now attends the same university Saki attends with Kuro, and she is in a relationship with Kuro. Saki refuses to believe her. She claims the reason she can't believe it is because Iwanaga isn't Kuro's spec. Although Iwanaga knows this too, she fights Saki back and says because Kuro is heartbroken by his spec, he has decided to go for someone who is below his spec. Saki remembers that she heard Kuro's cousin in the hospital has died, and she assumes that Kuro was heartbroken and he needed someone, so he decided to tilt towards Iwanaga. Iwanaga keeps insisting that she is in a happy relationship, and when Saki refuses to believe her, she brings out a picture showing Saki of herself and Kuro. Saki says Kuro doesn't look happy in the picture, but Iwanaga refuses to believe that. Saki goes to get Iwanaga coffee, and they sit to drink. She wonders why Kuro hasn't followed her to that mission if they are indeed in a sweet relationship, and Iwanaga lies that she has assumed she would just come to spend a night. Saki accuses her of lying, so Iwanaga confesses that she hasn't seen Kuro for about a week, and Kuro leaves her a message that she shouldn't be worried about him and he is fine. She says she knows Kuro can't die, so there is no reason she should be worried. Saki realizes that Iwanaga knows of Kuro's condition, yet she stays with him. Before leaving, Iwanaga tells Saki that when she next encounters Nanes, she should just run. After Iwanaga goes, Saki reads about Nanes online. She was a little girl who debuted at 17. She didn't get that much fame until a year after when she got a gig for a night show. She became quite popular, but her time of fame was short-lived. Her father died when she was 19 in what could be called a suspicious accident. Her father had fallen from the stairs. Everyone assumed it was a normal accident until November of that same year when rumors came out that Nanes could have killed her father because of his life insurance, and how he had stopped working and started depending on her. Due to the rumor, she tries to hide and come to that city, but she eventually dies during a steel accident. Saki sees a weird page about Nanes and sees the real drawing of her demonic face. The following day, she meets with Terada again. She asks him if he really thinks ghosts don't exist. Terada doesn't deny believing in ghosts, but he says there is something weird about Nanes, and even if she is a vengeful ghost, she should concentrate on the people who had killed her and not on the world. He needs to read the investigation of her death again, so he gives the files to Nanes and tells her to read them and feed him back. Also, Iwanaga reads more about Nanes' death. She finds the weird page of Nanes' drawing, and she feels the person who can make such a perfect drawing must have seen her. She feels she needs more information about the girl, especially police reports, and she can only get it from Saki. On the other hand, Saki spends the night reading the files. She hears knocks on her window, and she fearfully goes to open it only to see some yokai entering her house. The yokai, Genichiro, tells her Iwanaga has sent them, and she has said they will keep visiting her until she accepts their pleas to meet with Iwanaga. Iwanaga stays at a restaurant waiting for Saki, but a young ghost comes to tell her Nanes is at a place, so she leaves the restaurant and asks the spirit to tell Saki to wait for her. She goes to where Nanes is said to be and, to her shock, sees Nanes fighting Kuro. When she notices it is Kuro, she decides to hide and watch him do his thing. When she watches Nanes tries to hit him with her steel, she feels even though Nanes hits him, she won't die. Suddenly, Saki comes to her. She is angry that Saki has come and she will meet Kuro, while Saki is angry that she has sent Yakai to call her from her house. Then she leaves the restaurant they were meant to meet and asks a ghost to tell her where she is. Saki eventually sees that there is a human fighting a ghost. She asks Iwanaga if they should go save the human, but Iwanaga says he will be fine. She eventually notices that the human is no one else than her ex-boyfriend Kuro. She gets terrified, but Iwanaga reminds her that Kuro wouldn't die, but he would at least be hit in the head once. Saki watches Kuro in fear. Kuro keeps shifting from Nanes, but he trips by a bottle and falls, giving Nanes the opportunity to hit her with her steel. She breaks his head, and Saki wallows in fear. Iwanaga asks her if she has never seen Kuro die, and she says no. She claims all she saw was Kuro injury get healed and his finger return. She claims everyone in his family died suspiciously, which is enough reason for her to cancel her marriage plans. As Nanes tries to leave, Kuro's body returns, and he confronts her. He dodges all her attacks and eventually goes to strangle her. That seems weird to Saki because the fight feels coordinated, so Iwanaga confesses that Kuro sees the future. The second monster he has eaten, the Kyuden, is a monster with a cow body and human head, and it sees the future. The story of the Sakuragawa family started in their 10th generation. The family had read in books that if you consume a monster, you will get its power. He feels the need to know the future, so he decides he will eat the Kyuden. He goes to find the Kyuden and cooks for his family. Unfortunately, everyone who eats the meal dies. He continues his experiment despite killing not of people. One day, he finds out that since mermaids have the power to regenerate, a person can survive eating a Kyuden if he eats a mermaid, so he combines the food, but the experiment fails again. Several years later, Kuro's grandma calls him to eat, serving them mermaid and Kyuden's bodies. Out of everyone that eats the food, only Kuro survives. His grandma was happy. She claims she needs to know the future, so she has to kill him. She stabs him, and he revives. She makes him undergo so many tortures until he no longer feels pain. Kuro eventually twists Nane's head, and she dies. However, Iwanaga feels that wouldn't be the end of the fight, and it turns out she is right as Nane stands up again to fight. Iwanaga calls Kuro and tells him it can't be the best way to defeat the monster. Kuro goes to meet them, and he sees Saki. He confirms to Saki that he is now dating Iwanaga, and they eventually leave for Saki's house. After the petty issues and fights between them, they get into the business of the day, which is about how they will defeat Nanes. Iwanaga tells Saki that in their world, they have monsters of imagination. These monsters aren't normal ones, but they are created through rumors. When a person imaginarily says he saw a woman with a mask and slit face, and he spreads it to people, they also circulate the news. As time goes on, they will decide to give the monster a name, and when they succeed in doing so and calling the monster probably the slit mask, their imagination creates the monster, and it starts roaming around. Kuro says monsters of imagination aren't usually strong. In fact, they are created for a short period of time, and they disappear very fast. Contrary to them is the Steel Lady Nanes. Nanes died about a year ago, and within that year, the rumors have created a monster for her, and the monster is also unusually strong. When Saki asks Iwanaga what may have happened, Iwanaga says it should be because the rumor about Nanes spreads fast. The only way rumors spread so well is due to the internet, which probably caused it. She reminds Saki of the internet page about Nanes and asks her if she recalls that the picture of Nanes on that page is the same as her ghost picture. She says that the reason the picture is the same as Nanes isn't because the person who drew the picture had seen Nanes before, but because the ghost called the Steel Lady Nanes came as a result of the picture on that web page and also the page so the ghost took the appearance. She explains that the web is the reason the ghost exists, so it makes Saki thinks it will be much more difficult for them to defeat such a ghost. She tells Saki that she will need the police's help if she wants to defeat the ghost, and Saki wonders if she wants them to close the web page and stop it from being inaccessible, but she tells her they can't do that. Iwanaga says she knows it will be much more difficult if they are going to close a personal blog and no officer can do that, so she has devises another way in which they can defeat Nanes. She says since Nanes is a result of people's imaginations, they have to ensure they take her conversation away from people, and that way they can defeat her. She claims she wants to create a fiction that will overshadow the fiction of Nanes being a ghost, but Saki wonders if that is possible. Saki reminds her that people are more interested in conversations around mysteries like that, and even if she creates a synonymous conversation around how ghosts don't exist, no one will believe her. If they don't, it means they believe Nanase is a ghost. Kiro asks her how she wants to do that. She tells them that for her to create an alternate fiction, she has to find two things. The first is she has to generate a perpetrator who is doing all the crimes Nanase has been rumored to commit and also considers the motive for which the perpetrator is committing such a crime. Kiro still feels there is no way she can do that. She reminds her that claiming a ghost doesn't exist is just like countering her own beliefs about a ghost. Iwanaga admits to that, but since that's their only choice, she is fine with it. So Saki wonders what Iwanaga needs her help for. Iwanaga says she needs to see the file about Nanase's death so she can have a factual information to create a scenario that can't be countered by anyone. Saki says the files are police documents, but Iwanaga goes under her pillow and brings the file. She reminds Saki that she had warned her to leave the case, and if Saki still has that file, it means she is also interested in that case, and she wants to find a solution to it. Saki tells them her colleague is interested. She narrates how the issue had started following Nanase's accusation. She started running from the press, so that night it was raining, and she went to the steel construction ground with an umbrella waiting. Kiro suggests she was waiting for someone, but Saki says the police found a cigarette with her. Since she is still a minor, they assumed that she had come to smoke, and if she was actually waiting for someone, there should have been a conversation between her and the person, and there was no phone record of such. The police were considering murder, but the only person who could benefit from her death is her sister, Hatsumi, but Hatsumi had an alibi. She was the only one who insisted her sister wasn't suicidal. If she was a suspect, she couldn't have wanted the investigation to continue. They also consider that there was no sign that Nanase tried to dodge the steel, which means she actually wanted to die, and the steel felt like a great accident for her, and she resigned to fate when she saw it coming. Kiro feels they need a more credible information, so Iwanaga tells them to go to the scene. At the scene, she does her dance ritual, and a ghost comes out. Immediately Saki sees the ghost. She runs to hide. Iwanaga asks the ghost if he had seen anything the night Nanase died. The ghost narrates that when the steel was about to fall, Nanase didn't try to dodge the accident, meaning that she also wanted to die. Saki wonders why Iwanaga was requesting for police record when she could hear from a ghost eyewitness, but she reminds Saki that for them to get a logical fiction, they need both the information available to others and the real one. On her way home with Kiro, he tells her he will help her find a better future to ensure her logical fiction works. He explains to her that the future he feels isn't constant and it is a split of information. She wonders why the Kyuden gets a very constant future, and Kiro tells her it's because the Kyuden exchanges his life for that future, and only people who are about to die can see a certain unchangeable future. As they ride to the hotel, Iwanaga prays that Nanase shouldn't kill anyone because if she does, it will be more difficult for her logical fiction to spread and gain popular acceptance. She feels Nanase won't kill if no one approaches her. Unfortunately, a police officer approaches Nanase that night and she attacks him. The following day, the police investigation body calls Saki to interrogate her on what she knows about Terada. The night before, Terada had approached Nanase, and she killed him. The officer tells Saki that Terada has been killed in what can be called a vicious killing. His face was completely destroyed, and he couldn't be recognized. It was all thanks to his identity card, which was found that they got to know he was the one. Immediately Saki hears this. She knows he was killed by Nanase. The officer tells her that they have found frequent phone conversations between her and Terada, so he asks her about her location the night before at the same time Terada was killed. It was right after Kiro and Iwanaga took her home, so she tells the officer she was home. She returns to her duty, although she feels so bad about what had happened to Terada. As she sits and thinks, one of her bosses comes to meet her. He asks her if she knew Terada was investigating about Nanase, and she tells him yes. She wonders if the press has found out and inferred that it was Nanase that killed Terada, and although her superior tells her no, he also acknowledges the fact that people are talking, and it means they are spreading rumors. Saki knows how miserable that can be, and coincidentally, she gets a text message from Iwanaga asking her to visit their hotel. At the hotel, Iwanaga scatters on the bed with her legs separate and her eye separately. She is disturbed regarding how she could create a reasonable, logical fiction to counter the story spreading about Nanase. But the murder committed has made things more difficult for her. She wishes Kiro was with her because he has decided to stay in a separate room. Fortunately, Kuro knocks and enters her room with chocolates. She complains about how he has left her since the night before, but he claims it's because he wants her to rest well. She insists she can rest better beside him, but he refuses to accept that. Saki arrives, and Iwanaga dresses up properly. They open the door to Saki, who immediately asks them if they are sure it was Nanace that killed Terada. They tell her there was a creature who witnessed it and reported it to them, so it is true. To create a logical fiction at that point, they have to find a suspect for the crime, and also the motive behind the crime and the reason the suspect had decided to make the crime look just as if it was done by Nanace. The fact that Terada is a built man with taekwondo skills makes things more difficult because how can such a man be beaten and killed without him resisting in any way? The rumors that have been spread about Nanace will surely make her stronger, and as time goes on, she will kill more people. Iwanaga seems sure that Nanace will commit another murder that night and even more than one. She promises that she will finish Nanace that night. She thinks of what to do, but she has no idea, so Kuro suggests that she can create more than one fiction, and it doesn't have to be just one. With more than one fiction, it will divide the people's beliefs and weaken Nanace's power. That suggestion sounds perfect to her. He goes to rub her head, and she falls asleep. He tells Saki that she should also go home to rest. He sees her off to the elevator and tells her that they have sent Yoshi around to find out where Nanace is. If they find Nanace anywhere, he will go there and fight her and stop her from killing anyone. He tells her he has ordered a ride, but he needs her. She offers to help him, especially because she doesn't want more people to die, and she is tired of being around her ex and his new girlfriend. She asks him when he started dating Iwanaga. He tells her how they started, although he says it's not like he wanted to date her. She admits that his type is no one else than Rika. He wonders why she mentioned Rika in that situation. Rika is Kuro's sick cousin. She is about 2 years older than him, and she has been at the hospital for a long time, although she is rumored to be dead now. Saki remembers the first time Kuro took her to Rika. She acknowledges that Rika is a pretty lady with faint and pale skin. The first time Saki met Rika, she could assume immediately that Rika was Kuro's first love. She looked so beautiful and radiant that Saki couldn't take her eyes off her. Rika tells Kuro that Saki is so beautiful, so Saki bows to greet her and also tells them that she has only come to meet her for the first time and she is leaving. She goes to sit on the balcony of the hospital, and she feels Rika will be a personality that contaminates others. As she sits there, she hears some of the patients saying that Rika attempted suicide the day before, and that wasn't the first time she was doing such without dying. At present, Saki tells Kuro that she is glad he has gotten over Rika, and that Rika was a disturbance to him. He tells her Rika is his cousin, and although he wishes she is dead, but he knows she can't. He walks away, and she asks him if Rika wasn't dead. He tells her Rika is his family member, and she can't die. He leaves. Later that day, they meet with Iwanaga, who immediately notices their odd behavior. She regrets leaving them alone for a long time and wonders what could have happened between them when she was sleeping. Kuro gives her fruits and tells her he is going to stay at the gate, and if any of the yokai comes to tell her Nanace is around, they should call out for him. She goes inside the car with Saki, and she wishes Saki would say to her what had happened between her and Kuro when she was sleeping. Fortunately, Saki also asks her if she has met Rika. She tells Saki yes, and Saki asks her what she felt the first time she met Rika. Iwanaga narrates that immediately after Rika saw her, he told Kuro she wasn't his type. Kuro laughs and says yes, and Saki says it must have been an embarrassing situation for Iwanaga. But she claims she also made Rika feel bad for her words. She admits that she wasn't Kuro's type, and Rika feels bad and says she knows Iwanaga isn't his type. But it doesn't mean Iwanaga is bad too. Saki asks Iwanaga where Rika is since the hospital said she has died. Iwanaga tells her that Rika stayed at her house after she was discharged from the hospital, but she left about a month ago. Rika had been staying at the hospital for over 5 years because the hospital had been trying to experiment on her Kyuden and mermaid body. However, recently, the leadership of the hospital was changed, and the new director felt there was no need for such an operation, so they sought to discharge her. She calls Kuro, and when Kuro asks her where she wants to live, she tells Kuro she will live with her. Kuro refuses. He offers to ask Iwanaga for help, and when he calls her, she tells him she will only help him when he gives her his house key. He reluctantly accepts, and since Iwanaga's house has several rooms, she takes Rika home. Her family members accept Rika easily because of her kind personality, but about a month ago, Rika told them she had gotten a job and a house, so she wanted to leave. They allow her to go but find out later that the addresses she has dropped for her workplace and home were all wrong. About 2 weeks ago, Kuro gets concerned about Rika's well-being, which is when he sends her a text message and goes in search of Rika. Saki asks Iwanaga if she knows that Rika is in charge of Nane's imagination monster, and Iwanaga says yes, although she admits that she didn't know anything until the yokai in that environment came to tell her. But when she checked the wiki page, she realized it could only be the work of Rika. When Rika was at their place, she ensured she watched the news, and she spent so many hours on the computer, but Iwanaga didn't care. However, when Nanes emerged, she remembered that Rika had learned how to paint and draw for such purpose, and since she had the Kyuden ability, she died severally to find the future that would work for her, and she got what she wanted. A yokai comes to inform them that Nanes is out. That night, Rika also goes to check her page, and she kills herself to find out the future of that night. Saki, Kuro, and Iwanaga drive to where Nanes is, while Kuro goes to fight her in hopes of repeatedly dying to find the best future for them. Iwanaga remains in the car with Saki, planning to create a perfect story to counter the account that Rika has created. Iwanaga tells Saki that she has 4 different debates that she will use to convince everyone that Nanes doesn't exist. She tells her that the internet world is like a legislative department where both she and Rika are trying to debate about the possibilities of what they know. However, contrary to a normal debate setting, they both have equal strength and ability, and if she can convince the people that Nanes doesn't exist, she will win the debate. Saki reminds her that Rika can delete her comments from the page, but she tells Saki that Rika knows that in doing that debate, she has to maintain credibility, and if the people on the page notice that she is censoring comments or deleting some, they will doubt her and feel she has an ulterior motive, so she won't delete any comment. Instead, she will use nameless pages to comment and try to discredit Iwanaga's comment. Iwanaga gets into business, and she tells Saki to help her watch the flow of Kuro's fight with Nanes. She begins by asking the audience if they think Nanes is indeed an urban legend ghost or if she is created by some people who want everyone to believe that there is an urban legend ghost. At first, the people on the page give her audience, they wonder what she wants to say, and she continues. She tells them that she thinks ghosts don't exist, and at that point, many people get disinterested in that conversation. They ask her several questions, like who is disturbing the peace of the environment for a long time if ghosts don't exist. One of them gives her an audience and asks that she says what she thinks. She tells them she knows Terada is a strong detective who is a professional at physical training. She thinks the person who had killed Terada had single-handedly created a public figure called Nanes so that he could instill fear in the people and cause them to believe Nanes killed Terada. If that is what she wants to prove, she has to prove to them that the person was strong enough to kill Terada with one hit. She explains that the murderer probably knew that Terada was a competent police officer who wouldn't believe the idea that a ghost was terrorizing the people and would want to find out more. As a result, the person called Terada that night and told him that Nanes had just confronted her, and he should come to the gas station. As the competent officer that Terada is, he left the police station for the gas station. Before he arrives, the culprit, who knows Terada's height, has hung a pendulum on a hook and has situated it around the gas station, where it will fall and hit Terada on the head. So when Terada arrives, the culprit shows him Nanes' hairband and calls him to come to the spot she had provided for. When Terada arrives, the murderer releases the hook, and the pendulum falls and hits Terada in his head. The explanation seems reasonable, but it also brings the question of who the culprit could be and what his motive is. Iwanaga narrates that the murderer has to be someone who is much weaker than Terada, but a person who is close to Terada to know his work ethic and his height. It will be a female co-worker, whose motive could be because Terada is disturbing her. The explanation convinces a lot of people. Later, Saki realizes the explanation painted her as the culprit, and she complains to Iwanaga, who tells her the solution wouldn't last long. A few seconds later, they realize that everyone has started changing their mind, and they refuse to believe Iwanaga. Saki wonders how things changed suddenly, and Iwanaga reminds her Rika has the same power as Kuro, and she is also dying to find a good future for herself the same way Kuro is doing the same for them. She tells Saki that she has 4 explanations in mind, and she knows the first one she has provided would have convinced a set of people. All she needs to do is to narrate the other ones one after the other and ensure that a lot of people totally too believing that Nanes is a ghost. Meanwhile, due to her first narration, the frame of Nanes at Rika's house cracks a little. Iwanaga tells Saki that she will surely win the fight, and she decides to go with her second explanation. And when she types it, and Saki reads it on her phone, it sounds totally unreasonable. She types that Nanes is indeed a ghost, and she has come to revenge. Saki asks her why she will type something like that, knowing so well that their sole intention is to create a figure like Nanes doesn't exist. She explains to Saki that since their first hypothesis isn't working, the best hypothesis is to create a story of how Nanes really exists. By doing so, she can convince the readers as regards the sole reason Nanes has returned to the world, and they will end up pitying her and try to cancel the mindset of how she is a terrible ghost who had come to kill, and therefore weaken her. Iwanaga continues her explanation. She asks the readers if they know the reason Nanes had died, and they claim since Nanes was killed due to an accident, she has every reason to come back for revenge. But Iwanaga tells them Nanes wasn't killed due to an accident. She was suicidal, and she was near death even before she died. She reminds them of how everything had started due to the death of Nanes' father. She creates an assumption whereby she asks them if they think Nanes wouldn't conceal every piece of evidence that can reveal that she killed her father, including the diary book, if she indeed killed her father. She tells them that if Nanes had killed her father, she could have thrown the book away and concealed all evidence, so it means she didn't do it. Instead, someone had created a trap for her where she had killed her father, and she went down for him, and she fell into such a trap. Her career, which she had worked on for so long, got destroyed, and she lost everything she had worked for. The question remains who could have done that. She explains that the most suspicious person would be her father. He had left his job following Nanes' fame, and he had started eating from her money. However, her fame made him inferior, and he even complained to a friend who made him feel bad about how he was talking about his daughter. He felt he was getting unnoticed, so he decided that if he was going down, then he was going down with Nanes. So he wrote a suicide note and went to throw himself down the stairs. Sometimes later, the suicide note was found, and Nanes was destroyed. She ran around trying to get herself, and when the steel beam was about to fall on her, she didn't defend herself at all. After she died, she went to heaven the following day, and she met her father, who confessed that he was the one who made her feel miserable. She returns to the world to tell everyone her story, and since no one believes her, she becomes violent. Iwanaga admonishes the audience that the only way they can let the sweet Nanes rest in peace is to understand the reason she had become violent. Indeed, that solution works, and Nanes becomes weak, but Iwanaga knows the solution wouldn't work. Rika sends another anonymous reply. She claims that even if Nanes is hurt, it doesn't give her a season to become violent, and even kill someone. That changes the turn of events, and Nanes becomes violent again. Iwanaga goes for her third hypothesis. For the third one, she seeks to tell everyone that the ghost isn't Nanes, and that Nanes is probably alive. She reminds everyone that even when Nanes' sister, Hatsumi, saw her corpse, she insisted it was not her sister, and Nanes wasn't one to die that easily. That brings the question of why Hatsumi will say such. Hatsumi didn't have a close relationship with Nanes. In fact, it was rumored she was the one who sent the suicide note written by her father out. However, she didn't know what she had done would go that far. When she found out her sister was dead, she felt bad, and she became mentally disturbed and believed her sister wasn't dead. One of her friends, who had her interest in mind, felt the best way for him to show her Nanes was dead was to bring the ghost of Nanes. He starts pretending as a ghost and makes Hatsumi feel Nanes is really dead, but it becomes wrong when he confronts Terada and kills him due to no other choice. However, it seems that story doesn't work at all because Nanes gets stronger and even kills Kuro again. Rika counters the story. She tells the audience that if the person who pretended to be Nanes had wanted to soothe Hatsumi, he could have acted as a nicer ghost and not a violent one because being a violent ghost means Hatsumi would be more scared that Nanes would come for her and kill her. Left with no other choice, Iwanaga goes for her last explanation. Nanes divides Kuro's body into two, and he tries to join his body back. Iwanaga tells Saki that Nanes isn't getting weaker, which means all the explanations she has provided haven't been working. The reason is that Rika is also dying and picking a good future for herself, so she has to do something different and get a future Rika can't control. Saki encourages her that she has at least created doubts in the mind of some of the viewers, but she tells Saki that her intention isn't to create doubts in the mind of minor viewers. She tells Saki that Rika will also imagine her intention is just to create doubt, and she has to disappoint Rika. She claims her last explanation will be the last straw to break the camel's back, and there will be no way out for Rika. She imagines herself bringing out a future from her hand, and she sets out to give the future to Kuro. She gets down to it, and she explains on the website that Nanes Karin is alive. She reminds them that Nanes' body, which was found under the steel, was faceless. However, the police did their investigations, and they saw that the fingerprints were in the hotel. That's because Nanes had never committed any crime before, so there was no way the police could have her fingerprint in their record, so they used the one in her hotel. She also had the same body as the corpse, and since her teeth were destroyed, they couldn't confirm it was her, but the facts directed to it being her. She tells the audience that Nanes Karin is alive. She is the one who created the ghost named Steel Lady Nanes, and she was the one who killed Terada. The audience gets more interested, so Iwanaga explains to them that after Nanes found out it was her sister who revealed her father's diary, she felt she had no other family. There was no way she could survive. She had thoughts of how she will lose her future, and she was still young. At about the same time, a young lady who is Eren walks in front of Nanes, and the lady has the same body structure as Nanes, only that her hair is black. Nanes walks towards Eren, who is also depressed. She tells Eren that they look alike a lot and tells Eren that she is an idol. She draws Eren closer, and the young girl who doesn't know what it means to be truly loved feels Nanes loves her. One way or the other, Nanes convinces Eren to follow her to the hotel. She made Eren touch everything in the hotel and also cleaned her personal fingerprint. She tells Eren to help her escape from the media and meet her at the Steel House. That night during the rain, Eren goes to meet her there. When Nanes sees Eren, she hits her on the face and throws the steel on her to destroy her face and also removes the purse. She takes Eren's identity, but some time later, someone sees her and feels she looks like Nanes. She felt the need to destroy every thought of Nanes being alive, so she created a figure of Steel Lady Nanes, who is a ghost. She feels if she terrifies people as a ghost, they will believe she is dead. The audience starts believing Iwanaga, reaching their own conclusion, and Nanes gets weaker. Rika immediately tries to kill herself to find a perfect future, too. But it's too late because Iwanaga has a plan for her. Iwanaga throws the last bomb, which is the fact that it was Nanes who created that wiki page that they are chatting on so she can spread the rumor of Steel Lady Nanes. She killed Terada because that day, when she was walking around in her Eren personality, she met Terada, who recognized her and felt she was familiar. He goes to stop her and asks her some questions. He asks if she is Nanes, and because he is in shock and feels he has seen a ghost, Nanes uses the opportunity to hit him in the head and then smashes his face and destroys the face to make it look like it was Steel Lady Nanes' handiwork. Iwanaga concludes her narration and asks all the audience to judge whether or not Steel Lady Nanes exists. Rika no longer controls the situation, and the picture of Steel Lady Nanes in her house breaks into pieces. Kuro stabs Nanes with her steel, and immediately she disappears along with her steel. Kuro falls in exhaustion, and Iwanaga tells Saki that the people have made their decision and they have accepted that Steel Lady Nanes isn't a ghost, so there is no reason she should exist. She receives a mail from Rika immediately. She shows it to Saki, and in the mail, Rika tells her she and Kuro have won that one, but she won't give up, and she will create another one. Saki wonders why Rika insists on creating monsters of imagination, but Iwanaga refuses to tell her why. She leaves the car holding a banana and goes to give the banana to Kuro. When she reaches Kuro, she tells him that he has gone so well and has died several times, so he should use the banana to replenish his energy. He reminds her that she did most of the work and was the one imagining and creating situations where the circumstances will go in their favor, so if anyone deserves the banana, it is her. She refuses, so she peels the banana and forces him to eat it so Saki will know he is human. She jumps at him and tells him she wants his banana when they return home. The yokai, ayakashis, and monsters inside the forest come out. They celebrate that Steel Lady Nanes is dead, and they carry Iwanaga up. Kuro collects her from them and tells her they must go because Saki has fainted in the car. They take the car to return home. In the car, Kuro apologizes to Saki for their nonchalance in defeating Nanes, which led to the death of her colleague. But she reminds him that it wasn't his fault, and there was nothing they could do. The following day, things return to normal. The Lady Steel Nanes' wiki page closed up after Rika lost the fight, but several other people opened pages to start investigating the situation, although the idea of Nanes being a ghost has disappeared. And now they consider if Nanes is really alive, and if so, where is she? For the police, they reopened the file of Nanes' death, considering if it was not her corpse, but the case is open-ended. The conversation seems unending, and there is no conclusion. Eventually, it becomes a secret conversation no one can publicly say, and everything returns to normal. On Saki's way from work, she meets Kuro. They enter a restaurant together, and he asks her if she still wants to know why Rika is doing all that. He tells her that for him, he has accepted that he can't die, but he is growing like an average person, and even though he can't die by an accident, He feels when he grows old, he will die. That's contrary to Rika. She really wants to return to normalcy, and she wants to be human, which is why she has subjected herself to laboratory experiments for 5 years. But there is still no solution, so she believes that if she keeps grasping the future that comes at her, she may get her solution. He tells her Rika won't stop, but that doesn't mean he no longer loves Rika, and he also knows Iwagawa will also do all it takes to set things in order, and he will support her too. They leave the restaurant, and he gives her their bike because Iwagawa thinks they no longer need it. After sleeping for 28 hours, Iwagawa wakes up. She feels she has given Saki and Kuro enough time to meet up, and when Kuro returns, she jumps at him and cries. He tells her he only went to give Saki the bike, and he has even deleted her number. They eventually leave the hotel, although she is still angry. They need to get to the train station so they can go home. As they walk, she tells him that she knows Rika won't make her next move immediately, but she has informed all the yokai in the world to tell her if something goes wrong. He asks her if she knows the story of Princess Iwagawa in their myth book. She narrates how Princess Iwagawa was sent with her sister Konohana no Sakuya to marry Ninigo no Mikoto. However, Ninigo no Mikoto sent Iwagawa back home and took only her sister. Their father, Oyamatsumi, tells Ninigo that the reason he had sent the 2 sisters is that anyone that takes Iwagawa gets immortality, and how the Ninigo will be mortal. Drawing from that story, Kuro tells her he is immortal, so he will always choose her. She doesn't take that as a good comment because she knows the reason Iwanaga was rejected was because she was ugly. He tells her she is more beautiful than all the flowers he had rejected, so she accepts. Rain starts as they walk away, and Iwagawa says that despite the existence of yokai, ayakashi, monsters, demons, and other creatures in the world, there is a need for order. No matter what Rika does, she will always ensure order in the world.